All right, Nick, let's talk about the Pittsburgh Steelers. Big matchup coming up against Arthur Smith's old team, the Atlanta Falcons. It's going to be a good one for the Steelers. But before this game, the Steelers have gotten a ton of great news for the upcoming matchup. I'm Andrew, and this is Saturday Morning Inspection. All right, Nick, as we alluded to, big news for the Steelers approaching their upcoming Week 1 matchup against the Atlanta Falcons. I think this is going to be huge for them going forward. Let's get into the article, or the tweet rather, and we'll talk more about it on the other side. This is from Teresa Varley over on Twitter. It says, Coach Tomlin said Troy Fautanu, Corey Trice Jr., Roman Wilson, and Jaylen Warren all worked and practiced already this week, and he's optimistic they could be available on Sunday. Obviously, with the Steelers having a lot of players banged up, it is good to hear that these guys are going to be ready in time for, as I alluded to, a big matchup against the Atlanta Falcons. I think it's going to be big for them. I'm curious what your thoughts are on this, Nick. But before we get to you, Steelers fans, in the comment section below, Week 1, first matchup of the season, a lot of new pieces on this team. So I'm curious, what are your thoughts? What is the prediction for the final score of this game versus the Atlanta Falcons? Does the offense come out hot? Do they score 52 to, 10? Is it going to be a defensive battle? Is it, like a, 17-10 matchup? Let us know in the comment section below. What are your thoughts on the final score for Steelers Falcons? Let us know. But nonetheless, Nick, what do you think about these updates for the Steelers?
Yeah, I think Steelers fans out there, the way the offense has played the past couple years, they'll probably settle for 24-10, maybe not 52-10. But look, I think this is great news for Pittsburgh on a number of fronts. Let's start with the Fautanu move. Obviously, first round pick, limited with the injuries. I think it's as brutal as this. And again, I don't want to be too negative, but the less football, I should say, the less football Dan Moore plays at left tackle for the Steelers this season, the better, right? We've done a lot of film reviews on a lot of Steelers offensive linemen, a lot of scheme strategy for the Steelers. And every time we put on the tape, Dan Moore just is struggling, right? He's just not getting it done. Maybe in a backup role, he would be better situated, things like that. The less he plays, the more Fautanu plays. I think the Steelers offense is going to be just significantly better, of course, at that critical position at left tackle. And when you look at Jaylen Warren, who I think is kind of an unsung hero for this offense, Steelers fans, you guys know what I'm talking about. He's kind of the instant offense, the spark plug, the guy who gives an energy. I really am excited to see what Arthur Smith does with him. Arthur Smith has historically been pretty creative with nifty guys in the past. You look at Cordero Patterson, by the way, who's also with the Pittsburgh Steelers now, the way Smith used him during his tenure with the Atlanta Falcons. I wouldn't be surprised if we see a similar situation with Jaylen Warren in that kind of role in this upcoming Steelers offense. So again, having him healthy is important. Then you talk about the back end with Corey Trice Jr. Beanie Bishop had an outstanding offseason, of course, great camp. But the reality is, anytime you're starting a rookie undrafted free agent at one of your three corners, Bishop being the nickel, not an ideal position to be in, because if you have one guy go down, you're really in a tough situation. We all know Sutton's dealing with the suspension, so having more health at that cornerback position, a little bit of depth will be absolutely critical. We've all seen those games, whether it be early in the season, middle of the season, late in the season. You lose one or two corners over the course of a game, even if it's short-term injuries, you just can't stop anybody because you just run out of corners. You're forced to just play basically off coverage the entire time. So I think this is really good news for the Pittsburgh Steelers, especially when we consider the fact we know the second half of the Steelers schedule is absolutely brutal. It'll be really important for them to get off to a strong start. And I think having these guys ready and able to play is a great sign and should help them get off to the fast start that they really need.
Yeah, Nick, and I think, the defensive side of the ball, those things are very important. I think Trice being in there as valuable depth is going to be big, but I want to touch back on the offense side of things, and you bring up a great point, is this offensive line. It's going to be crucial to this Arthur Smith scheme. You bring up the running backs as well. This is going to be a run-heavy scheme. Arthur Smith, he traditionally does that a lot. The Steelers, I think they got a lot of great, guys at receiver. Calvin Austin is, he hasn't quite got there yet, but I see the potential. I think everyone sees the speed. They see the potential. George Pickens is there. But I think they're going to open up with the running game. They've got these great offensive linemen. You got Frazier now. You got Fautanu there as well. I think the offensive line has some good improvements on it, but I think we're going to see something interesting here. So having Fautanu healthy, like you said, anytime Dan Moore's out there, I don't think is going to be helping the offensive line. I think Fautanu is going to be the better bet there. You got Jaylen Warren, who you said that's the spark to the run game. That's the guy that's going to punch the long ball to open up those short runs. This is going to be something that, you get 3, 4, 5, good runs in there. And then Jalen Warren comes in, hits that home run, really opens up the running game. I think it's going to be crucial for this team going forward. So I think all around the ball, these injuries, updates, all of these guys being able to play is going to be crucial for the Steelers going forward, just because this is going to be a big game for him. This is make or break. I really think game one, this offense, all these changes, people want to see some results. So I think this is going to be big for the Steelers. I'm glad they're getting off on their best foot forward, and I'm excited to see what this offense does week one.
Well, especially when you look at, like I mentioned, their schedule, right? They start with Kirk Cousins and the Falcons. Everyone's basically thinking the Falcons are going to be a playoff contending team. That's a tough matchup on the road. They go to Denver, should be a victory, even though playing in Denver is usually kind of a struggle. New look Los Angeles Chargers, then the Colts that are young and exciting. Cowboys at home, that'll be tough. Raiders, and then both New York squads. Bye weekend in Washington, should be a lot of wins there. And then it's just a murderer's row. You go Baltimore, Cleveland, Cincinnati, Cleveland, Philadelphia, Baltimore, Kansas City, Cincinnati, right? That's down the stretch there. That is absolutely brutal. So it doesn't look like it's going to be one of those years where the Steelers can maybe sneak 2 or 3 wins at the end there and get into the postseason. They're going to have to earn it with a strong start. They're going to have to start fast. And the best way to do that is, of course, having all your best players available. And it looks like a lot of them will be. I think it's a great sign for the Steelers.